Okay, so round of introductions. Oh, here's Siún Grace, brilliant. Round of introductions. I'm just going to call on everybody just to say who you are and what project you're associated with, if that's okay. And then tell us your favorite color. Tell us what your favorite color is. So, Anne-Marie, with apologies, you're first on my screen.
Oh, okay. I'm Anne-Marie and I'm a volunteer with ICON, which is an inner city organisation. My favourite colour is orange.
Orange. Interesting. Nira.
I'm Nira Bilassi. I work with Amal Women Association. We are providing support for Muslim women, in particular in Dublin, and we're trying to extend outside Dublin as well. And my favorite color was pink, and then it developed into blue for some reason when I grow. So, yeah.
Interesting. It changed. Okay, Sinead.
Hey, I'm Sinead. I work with ICON as well, Inner City Organisation Network, and my favourite colour is red.
Red. Okay, we're very interesting. Same spectrum. Joyce.
Hey, my name is Joyce, and I work at ICON, and my favourite colour is red.
Cheryl. Good to see you're not in the car.
Get your EpiPens ready.
Who's that? Cheryl, can you hear us?
Do you mean Siún?
Siún Grace, yeah, you go.
Okay, thanks. So, hi everyone. I'm in the car. My name is Siún Grace Atiroku, and I volunteer with Culture Migrant Center. And I also work on my own. I also volunteer with different organizations. And I'll be contesting to be a councillor in June here in Dundalk South. And my favorite color is orange, blue, and yellow gold.
Orange. Okay, very
Those
good.
are-
Yeah, thank you for that. Ping.
I'm lecturer in Dundalk IT and heavily involved with the last volunteer, particularly with immigrants. And my favorite color, red. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Martin.
My name is Martin McDonough. I work with the Clear Traveller CDP in Ennis. We're under the CLDC. I don't really have a favourite colour, to be honest. Whatever I'm feeling that day.
Nice. Depends on the mood.
Yeah, exactly.
Amina.
Hi, this is Amina Hajamar. I think I'm working at Amal Amal Women Association, and my favorite color is red.
It's great, thank you. And Cheryl, last but not least. Just maybe ask her to unmute. There you go.
Hi, my name is Sibusiso, and I am in Donegal in Letterkenny. I'm currently volunteering with Donegal Intercultural Platform.
And your favorite color?
My favorite color is burnt orange.
Burnt orange. Okay, tell me why you like burnt orange.
I fell in love with the color when my friend was having a wedding, and then she used those colors. They came out really brilliant with the contrast of brown. So they really stood out for me, and I fell in love with it.
Nice. Anne-Marie, why did you pick orange?
I really like the colour. I think it's very vibrant. I wear a lot of orange. It just makes me feel good.
Yeah. June Grace, why did you pick orange?
I love the color and the meaning, and when I use it for design, the way it comes out, it kind of pops out for me. That's why I picked the colors I picked.
Very good. And those of you who picked red, Sinead, Joyce, King, and Amina, why red?
I like the color red.
No, it's always been one of them colours I was always put in, maybe from a child. And I would put my girls in it, a lot of red as well, so I don't know.
Very good. Who else? Ping, you picked red?
Yeah, I pick red, like Sinead. When I was young, my mom always dressed me red, so it's always, I have loads of red, different shades of the red, and also red, I suppose it's a Chinese color,
Yep.
and so it's associated with the culture, and also everybody say that red suits me, so it just easily and became my favorite color. Thank you.
Good. Joyce?
Yeah, I do like red. It's I find it, like as Anne-Marie said, very vibrant. Personally, I don't wear lipstick, but I love to see when a friend of mine wears red lipstick, and it really stands out on her. I just think it's I wear red nail varnish all the time.
You do indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the color red.
Amina?
Actually, I don't think I have a really particular reason. I just tend to pick red over other colors when I'm going shopping or when I'm buying something. So I think that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Maybe
Amira?
let's say aesthetic preference. Yeah.
Sabuzio, yeah, you are, but you've changed your name now. That's fine. That's why I was calling on Shirley. I was wondering why you weren't answering. So you're great. It's all changed now. It's all good. Thank you. Nira, you went from pink to blue. Why do you think you did that?
So for pink, it's the idea that it's very cheerful and like springy color. But then when I get older, I went into the blue because it feels more mature and royal or elegant. So yeah.
They're all really strong colors, they're all, colors that are associated with change. And I think that's it's interesting when you think about why is my favorite color, and you start to think, what does it mean to me, and where did I get the idea that this is my favorite color? So just hold on to that when we come to our discussions about power in a second. But what we're going to start off with, if that's okay, is just see if there's any questions from last week. Is there anything you'd like to go over? Because last week we looked at community. What does community mean to us? Is community always positive? Is it sometimes negative? Can we belong to different communities? Can we belong to different communities at the same time? Are we born into some communities and then we select other communities? And then we looked at change within a community. And we looked at communities that face marginalization. And we looked at, well, if that is the case, how do we make change? And then we brought it back to community development, which is where we're going to start today. But I'm just wondering, are there any questions? Did you go away last week with any niggles, or, have you any questions or statements that you would like to ask or to say? Or
So for me, it was one burning question because of when we spoke about community and because we are new in the community development thing, that what's the community that we are going to target? Because are we going to say like Muslim women around Ireland? Is it only Muslim women in Dublin, to be realistic? Or it's only Muslim women in South Dublin, around the area that our office is? Because I want to make sure that I benefit many people, but at the same time to don't put a burden in ourselves when we're starting.
Yeah.
So what's the
Not
best
to
way
spread
to
yourself
start
too
with?
thin. Yeah, not
Yeah.
to spread yourself too thin. And I know, Martin, you're kind of going through that in Clare as well, because you very much started off with focusing on Ennis, but you're moving outside Ennis now, aren't you, Martin?
I'm well known inside Ennis with the lads, so the word spread. Now we've extended our base now to the likes of Ennistimon now and Shannon. We've we're setting up a group now in Shannon in the next 2 weeks. So it's just a matter of getting if you focus on with your closest first, make an impact. Name will spread. Do you know what I mean? If you try and overwhelm yourself at the start, you'll never get nothing done. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like. I feel like that we started small. We got them small little things over the line. People start seeing it. They start wanting to become part of my group. I have a group of over 30 lads, between 16 up to 40 odd. Do you know what I mean? We have a WhatsApp support group that I have everyone inside. That everyone, as you know yourself with groups, not everything is for everyone. So I have a number of things going that suits everyone's kind of need. So yeah, it's going well so far.
Yeah, so your advice would be kind of to start with the closest near you, and then
Start
gradually
local,
or
because
yeah, yeah,
yeah, because when you
organically
start
grow.
locally, of course, yes, organically grow. Let the word spread, because when you start locally and you start fulfilling what you're doing and you start getting things over the line, you're gathering experience as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when you're moving outside of the realm of your local area, you have a bit more experience as well. So I
yeah,
do think start local and then build your way out.
yeah. And would that be the experience of Icon as well? Because I suppose the work in Icon started off very concentrated on women in precarious and in substandard accommodation in private, but the work has really kind of grown as well from that. It kind of put out branches from the tree.
Oh, definitely. In Icon, it's, as you say, branches from a tree. It has spread, like the autism group, the anti-human trafficking, women in poverty, the housing. It's really taken like an explosion, basically,
Yeah,
within the NFT. Yeah,
yeah,
but a good.
yeah.
It's
So
And
I
great.
if
don't
I
know.
could add,
Go
And
on,
if I could
jump in.
add something there is when you start locally, you're most likely more comfortable because you know the people in your area, so you can talk to them a bit more comfortable before you start going outside your area to people that you don't know. So when you're talking locally to people that you already know, you're more comfortable. You learn your job better. So when you go to someone that you don't know, it's less pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when you spread, you're kind of too ambitious, especially at the start, you can sorry, just
Overwhelmed.
you can get overwhelmed. And I think, the advice around building up the experience is good. So I don't know, Neera, if that's in any way helpful, but I think, and we'll discuss that more maybe when we meet next week with
Yeah, we
Amal, but
will.
I think that, I think it's good advice to build up the experience would be good advice, but we can talk about that more. I think that the experience of all of the projects, we could say all of the projects, is they started with one thing, and as they got comfortable with what they started with, it did branch out. So if you think of the tree and you're the trunk of the tree, or the current work is the trunk of the tree, there's no doubt about it, it will grow branches. Yeah.
Good. Thank
Any
you.
other comments or statements or questions or anything else from
But
last
that's
week?
not to say that someone outside your area is not welcome in. Of course they are. But you
Yeah,
don't want to overwhelm yourself by taking on the whole county rather than the little estate that you're in. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're small teams as well, do you know this? And I know that some people here are volunteers, and that's absolutely brilliant. That just so adds to the strength of the projects. But the projects themselves, they're small teams.
And then when you start locally and you start getting stuff over the line, because funding is very, very hard. Funding is probably the biggest roadblocks in most organizations. Well, it's a big roadblock in ours anyways. To get funding, you have to kind of show success. So you don't have to overwhelm yourself of going miles outside your territory without a lot of funding. Do you know what I mean? Stick to the easy things first and kind of get it over the line and show that you're working, show that you're succeeding. Because, do you know what I mean? Anyone who gives funding has to see that you're actually making an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from last week?
Just a bit of feedback, I suppose. There was maybe 10, 12 of us on the meeting. I'm not quite sure. I'm on my little camera here today again. I felt a togetherness because we all spoke about what we want within our communities, our organisations. And I thought the way we spoke about aligning ourselves for change and allowing ourselves to feel comfortable with one another, I thought that was actually it was quite, what would you say? It was the one common denominator we all have on this group, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And it's very much the same kind of thing. When you look at so there's 10 projects now associated with the community development program. Everybody here is associated with one or another, and they're all very different. They're all focusing on very different things, but it's that want for change. It's that fire in your belly that something isn't fair and you want to make a change. Something isn't just, something isn't right, and you want to make a change. That's what unites us all, you know. So whether we're working with Muslim women or travellers in Clare or migrants in Donegal or Dundalk or Meath, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What we're here for is we're here for change. The change we want to create might be a bit different, but the way we go about it is the common denominator. So that's really well summarized, Anne-Marie. Yeah, thank you for that. Anyone else? No, the people I know sometimes it's absolutely not possible, and that's fine if it's not possible. But if it is possible to turn on your cameras, it does kind of make a difference. But if you can't, that's fine. But if you can turn on your camera at all, it would be great. But you know, no pressure. Okay, so let's have a look. So we're going to start today with where we ended last week, if that's okay. Okay, so we're going to start this week with a reminder of what community work is. So when it comes to change, I just have to move this thing out of my way so I can actually see the slide. Can people see that? Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to change, we were saying last week that, you know, there's, you know, different people make different changes. I mean, you can look at, you know, a minister, for example, can make change. A social worker can make change. But when it comes to community work, it's not just change. So it's not just what we do, it's the way we do it. It's how we go about that. So in community work and community development, and as I was saying last week, we use those terms, they mean the same thing in Ireland. It's about both the change that we're trying to make, but also the process. So what makes community development really different is the process that it uses. So the process that it uses is about including people in the change that you're trying to make. It's including the communities that you're working with at all levels of whatever work that you're doing. It's about getting people to participate in decisions. It's about their experiences informing the work. And it's about making them feel that this is a good situation to be in, you know, that they feel empowered, that they feel that they're part of this decision. So that's what community work is. It's about making change collectively, not just for one person, but for the whole community. And then it's about the way we go about making that change. Is that okay with everybody? Is there any questions about that? Or does anybody want to have a bit of a discussion around that? Do you feel that kind of talks to you? Do you feel that you know, that's what you're in it for? Yeah, and I know, Neera, and I know I've heard you saying this before, that you're new to the community work field, but it strikes me from looking even at the work of Amal before, that whilst you might have called it community work or community development, that's kind of what you were doing anyway. Would I be right in that?
Yeah, yeah, and this is also a little confusing, but because of the approach that we always use is the one-to-one support, like fulfilling the needs of a person. But we were trying now to focus on like developing the whole community or doing change for the whole broader group. So
Yes.
this is what I mean about being new into community development.
Yeah. And I know we spoke about this a little bit last week, you know, the collective bit, the collective change bit, and how does that sit with the one-to-one work? I know Icon would have been through that journey. I know that Clare Traveller movement has been through that journey. Donegal has been through that journey. You have to do in some ways, you know, we say, well, it's not change for the one person, but you have to build on that. There's no way an organization can get away from doing that one-to-one support. And Martin, if you want to jump, or anybody else wants to jump in this, it's really necessary to do that work to begin to build credibility in with the community that you're trying to work with. There's no way like Travers would have anything to do with an organization that doesn't do something for them. But it's about not stopping there. It's about not getting stuck in the one-to-one work. It's about moving, because what the one-to-one work will do as well is it will tell you what the issues are. You know, so the one-to-one work with women in substandard accommodation in inner city Dublin will soon tell you it's not an issue for Mary or John. It's not just an issue for Mary or John or Anne or Suzanne. It's actually an overall issue. So it's when you discover that this is an overall issue, I need to tackle the issue at the source and not just, you know, so it's about doing the one-to-one work. You can't escape it. You actually can't escape it, but it's about not just doing that work. Does anybody want to maybe share? Go on, Martin.
One-to-one work is very crucial. It's very crucial. Now, I often have groups there of 10 to 15 plus lads, right? And sometimes you're watching the group there and you could be watching someone's demeanor, someone's body language, the way they say something, and you could kind of nearly sense out that there's kind of an issue. Do you know what I mean? Without pulling someone aside in front of people, you can kind of talk to that person one-to-one and kind of develop a relationship, and they nearly come source out problems. Like we do a lot of one-to-one work, but we do a lot of group work. Like we don't shy away from either, or we don't limit ourselves to either. Do you know what I mean? We're open to both, because like just yesterday we had one-to-one. We're giving support to a family. Do you know what I mean? So it's building trust, building confidence that Martin helped me. So the next person can, oh look, he helped me out with A, B, and C. Maybe he can help you. So we're getting phone calls, text messages of one-to-one, but we still focus on groups. We can't leave one without the other. So one-to-one is very crucial.
Yeah.
I think I'm inclined to agree with you there. While I don't work in Icon, I do see the great work they do. And like that, the one-to-ones meetings, it opened my eyes when I went in. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It opened my eyes when I went in on different days, invited in. But you see that the girls that work in the offices, that meeting with one-to-one, and for the person that needs the help, the trust starts there. And then there's the link, because while everything doesn't happen in them offices, but say Nicola, for example, might know the next person for that person to go to, you know, so that link does follow through.
Yeah.
And like Martin said, the trust begins there.
Yeah.
And then it does become a community then from that, because you find that someone or organization, whatever it be, that once you build that trust, it works amazing, you know. But it's just, I think sometimes I think you know, I was in a full-time job and I wouldn't be involved in anything like this. But over the last 2.5 years, I've actually opened up myself to organizations and, you know, getting involved even on this community platform. I wouldn't normally say, I'd normally go, oh, I haven't got time for that. But it's opening up yourself and actually opening your eyes and seeing. So it's great. Like But that one-on-one, as you're saying, it does work, but it leads to the trust for
Yeah.
individuals, and that's huge. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I think again that you hit the nail. And if you look, there's examples from all of the projects, where like I'll take Claire again, Martin, as you're on the call. Like accommodation is enormous. Accommodation is enormous for all communities, but it's absolutely enormous for the traveller community. But if Claire Traveller CDP didn't do that support work in relation to accommodation, they wouldn't have trust or credibility. But because they did that one-to-one support group, that has now grown into collective action. So there's a group of travellers now who are trained to go out and to document the traveller accommodation needs, which will then feed into the traveller accommodation plan that each local authority has to do. So it'll feed into that plan in Clare. So it's about starting with that work, but not just staying there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's correct, because we're working with an organisation called Kina, and we're doing a housing analysis at the moment. We're going out to traveller families in Clare, and we're getting all their information. We have they're like surveys they have to fill. We have to fill out. We go in and we ask them certain questions, and then we will register them in with the council just to make sure that the council has all their details. They have the correct information. All the travellers needs, what they need and what they don't need. So the council can't say that we don't have them on file. We don't know what they need. We want to get the travellers' voice heard in the council when it comes to accommodation, because the homeless in Ennis is, look, all over Ireland is just brutal, to be honest. But look, we have to start somewhere. And as you said there, we started with taking meetings with people, and it escalated it grew, the branches grew, and now we're involved with Kina, and the council is supporting us, and so is Kina, and we're doing the work, thank God, and everything's going well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is about that. So it is about, starting there, but not, and in community work, we always talk about moving from the real to the ideal. But also starting from where people are at. So you start where people are at. So if you go in, like there's a Roma project in Longford, for example, a Roma CDP, and if that project went in and started, wanted, okay, all Roma gather and we'll all do collective work, they would to go hop. It doesn't work like that. So you have to start with where people are at. So you need to start talking to people, see what the issues are. And I think that your plan to do a needs analysis, Neera and Amina, will really start to bring what the issues are they'll become very apparent. Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions or comments or no? No? Okay. All right. We will move on then. And I'm just going to share the screen again. Okay. It moved all by itself. Okay. So when we talk about community work then, and we looked at this last week, we looked at moving from community, from where it is now to a kind of a vision of a different community. So, for example, we need to move from where the situation travellers find themselves in now to where we would really like society to be in relation to the traveller community. The same for women, the same for Muslim women, the same for Roma, the same for migrants, the same for new communities. We need to, have a vision for what we want for society in relation to different groups. And we looked last week at who are the groups that suffer from or experience discrimination most, and we need to have a vision for where we would like society to be. So at the moment, there is a lot of individualism, concern for just me and maybe my family, but really how things affect me. We spoke last week at the levels of poverty, racism, sexism, homophobia, ableism, and what these are the issues that we're trying to address. We spoke last week about how people in communities are excluded and how, gay people, for example, can feel excluded even within their communities, or a migrant can live in an area and not feel that they belong. A traveller can live in an area and not feel that they belong. We're looking at a situation where we're really going to hone in on this in a little while, but power, who holds power? And the fact that power actually is in the hands of a very small number of people. And we're looking at policies very far, like the government will tell you, we have a strategy for that, we have a policy for that. But when you ask them, what difference does it make? That's the key question. It's not about, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's about what difference is your work making? And then moving towards an ideal. And I know this can seem very far out there, etc. But I think we have to look at it as a work in progress, and sometimes they're baby steps. So the ideal community would be where people feel that sense of belonging, that collective working, that people are focusing on the good of the community, not just their own good. It's about looking at the redistribution of opportunities and resources, because if no more than power, if you look at wealth, for example, and resources, they're very much held in the hands of a small number of people. We're talking about the inclusion of people, the inclusion of different people. Like, who cares? It's about people because they're people, and because they are in your community, and including them, and solidarity with people who experience exclusion. Because it builds social cohesion, and because it's good for the community. It's not good for a community when somebody feels excluded. It's about that notion of collective empowerment, people enhancing and contributing ideas, skills, and resources. I mean, if you're in a space and your voice matters, and you feel that your voice matters, and you're asked to contribute, that feels very different to a space where, you're shunned. We actually don't want to hear your voice is silenced, and that builds a sense of resentment. Whereas if you're in a space where you feel you matter and you can contribute, that makes a huge difference to you, and to you as a person, to you as somebody who feels they can contribute to society. And then deepening democracy. And this is what we say about community work, because community work allows for the participation of people who wouldn't otherwise participate in decisions. So community work opens up the decision-making space. It opens up opportunities, for example, for people to get involved. It opens up spaces for people to talk to those in power. And it's about people participating meaningfully in influencing decisions that affect them. And that's why community work exists, and it's why we have community work organizations. It's about opening up and welcoming people into those spaces. So I'll just pause there and give me your thoughts on that. Anybody?
Can I say something?
Yes, you can.
So here, when we were speaking about having a vision and real ideal community, I'm wondering here if there is a way to design a vision or a goal without being over, let's say, dreamy or detached from the real circumstance or the limitation of the organization. Like making a realist goal that also relate to your community, but again, it's within the context you are working in, not something like that. For example, if you are a small organization, you cannot expect yourself to influence policies to a great extent. I mean, you would hope that you would raise awareness and things would change eventually, but it's like about the dilemma of not over-promising the people you are working with.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point, Amina, but I think there's a difference between vision and mission. So your vision should be about equality. It should be about, not that it should be, but I'm suggesting that a vision can be broader. A vision can be about full equality for Muslim women in Dublin or in Ireland or in society. Your mission as a small organization with limited resources could talk about the contribution that Amal Women's Muslim organization will make to that vision. So I think it is important to hold on to a vision of a society that's equal and inclusive and just, but also to understand the realities that you're only going to make a contribution to that, but that you are going to make a contribution to that in a way that, you know, brings people with you and in a way that builds a movement. Does that make sense?
Sorry,
Yes,
I
makes
had
sense.
a connection there. I'm back again.
Martin, were you going to jump in?
I had a connection issue there. It logged me
Oh.
out. I'm actually back now.
You are. I can confirm you're back.
Yeah. But
Anybody else?
just speaking on that there, I suppose when it comes to community development work and in working with, we'll just say for me, for the lines of working with travellers, obviously, look, there is a goal in the lines of looks being accepted, fighting racism, housing, but I suppose the overall thing is the steps. You have to fight the small battles before you get to the big battles.
Yeah.
Everyone has a goal and you have a plan of acceptance and fighting racism, but I think it's the little battles that counts. So I think taking small steps, baby steps before you take them big steps is leading up to it, because you have to, I suppose, you have to build the confidence in yourself and in the group, and you have to show the group itself that, look, we won this small battle, and have them thinking, well, look, hey, it is possible. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of travellers now at the moment, they're all negative and they're all like, oh, everyone is this against us and we're being treated this way and that way. So trying just to convince them by winning small battles is a big thing, because then you have everyone on your side, you have everyone behind you that we can do this. So I think small little battles is probably key. Well, it's always key to leading up to the big battles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anne-Marie, you've your mic turned off. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, I was getting caught. There was a problem with my phone. I suppose, yeah, the thing being there as well, change. I mean, we're all afraid of change, but at the same time, we need to be willing to change. I could be wrong, but I see from having younger children that there's things we're fighting as, I would say, older people, not ageism or anything, but I mean, like, you look at our schools at the moment, you have, you know, some amount of children, and they're all coming from different places, you'd say, but they seem to be able to accept that change easier. Do you know, you can see it in the groups, you can see it in the who your children you know, are friends with. They're willing to open themselves up. I think sometimes it can be that it's the way we've grown up and what we're used to. Do you know what I mean? Am I wrong? And am I going off there?
Not at all. No, you're dead right.
I think, yeah, at the moment, I think we are fighting it, but we have come a long way. We have come a long way. And, you know, we all have our problems in our community or our organisations.
Yeah.
But as Martin said there, if you can win the small battles, they eventually lead to the bigger ones. But we are letting our future generations, in a sense, know that this is now the norm, and they won't see it any different. You know, we see it different because we've grown up in a different society or different community, if you like. You know.
Yeah, and I think you do need to go on, Martin.
I think with all communities, the thing is to change the narrative, and especially with travellers. The key, what I will be trying to do, is change the narrative for the younger kids, because the older generation now is kind of nearly set in their ways, and they've experienced a lot of racism and roadblocks, and it's very hard to change someone like that. There's someone that's in their 30s and 40s. It's very hard because they're already overwhelmed with what they've been through. So the narrative that I would be trying to is to change it for their kids. If I can show the older group that, look, this can be done. Do you know what I mean? They build a bit of confidence and pushing their kids forward and saying, well, look, not everyone is the same. I do try and focus on bringing a group somewhere and leaving that establishment and having people saying, look, here, there's a group of travellers, but they're actually all nice young lads. They're all nice, mannerly lads. Do you know what I mean? The key is to change the narrative that we're not all the same. And the problem is, if one traveller does something, we're all painted with one brush. Which is not fair. Do you know what I mean? So automatically everyone is thinking, sure, what's the point? We're going to get nowhere. So
Yeah.
trying to change that for the next generation is a
Yeah.
big mission.
Yeah. So I don't know, Ping or Sinead or Sabusio or Joyce or Shun Grace or Shireen, do you want to jump in there? It's hard. I know it's harder when we can't see you because I can't see kind of, anybody who's trying to making a move to talk. Sinead, you've got your mic off.
Just going back on what Martin was saying there about the Travellers changing. I don't know whether anybody's seen the episode with Lucy Investigates on TV3 last night. It was all
Yeah.
about Travellers, and it was very interesting because it spoke from both ends of the age gap. They spoke to older generation, but they also spoke to younger generation, and the younger generation did want to change their set of ways. Like there was lovely young girls on there saying like that they didn't want to get married. They want to go off and explore the world, and they want to do this. They don't want to be set in their traveller ways. And then there was a set of twins on it that went like through the full education. So they wanted to change their set of ways, and they were putting it out there to other younger travellers that wanted to go along that route, that they didn't want to stay in their own, like their norm of what they would have been brought up as, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know whether anybody's seen it or not, but I watched it. I was very interested in it now.
Yeah, but I think that wanting to go on to school or, not wanting to get married earlier, that's very different to, you can still be a traveller and not want and be proud of being a traveller and not want to get married young. And all communities make that change. Like, it was only in the 70s where in Ireland, if you were a married woman and you worked for the public service, you had to give up your job. You didn't have a choice. You actually had to give up your job. We were still locking women up for having babies in the 70s. So change needs to come from within a community as well as outside a community. But that doesn't mean that, those young people they're still travellers, and proud to be a traveller. They're just choosing other ways of doing things. Joyce, you have your mic off, and Sabusio, you have your mic off. Do either of you want to jump in there?
Yeah, as Martin said, it's like everything, and we're talking about travellers at the moment, get tarred with the one brush. We're all the same at the end of the day. And the change comes from both ways, whether within the travelling community or within the business community and just basic community, to accept each and every one of us for what we are.
Yeah.
And we're all individuals. Like, we all come into this world the same way, and we're all going to go out the same way.
Yeah. I mean, can anybody think of something that used to be?
Can I just jump in?
Go on, sure. Go on, yeah, of course you can.
Sorry, I can't have my mic on, my camera on.
Sorry.
But let me just jump in, because based on what they're saying, if we do look at it, it's easier for the younger generation to change because they haven't yet gained those experience. It's harder for the older one because they've lived through certain kind of experiences, right? But in the end, it's the younger version of us, or not the younger version of us, but the younger ones are going to teach us, the older one, why it's so important to change. Because we're the older one. We're stuck in our ways because, you know what? I've done this all my life. I've been going that place all my life. I've been working with this company all my life, or I've been working with this group all my life. Do you get what I mean? Right. And then here comes a young, fresh eye that said, you know what? I know this is what you've been doing, but this is what we can do now. Do you understand? And and I know, because myself, I don't really like change so much, but now I'm getting into it. Do you understand? Because
it says the woman who's standing for election. I mean, the thought of, having your local council representative of migrants or travellers, or, a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have thought that would be possible, but now it's becoming possible. And in a few years' time, we'd be saying, how did we ever have a local council that was, 90% made up of generally middle-class white men? And now, how did we ever think, you know, that it wasn't right to have migrants on your local council or within your parliament, you know, within the Dáil? So I think that you're dead right, Shireen. You know, change can be difficult, but sometimes you're making change and you just don't name it. You know,
Yes.
I do think though, you see, changing it from the younger ones growing up, I do agree, yeah, look, a change is coming and you might learn the older ones, but the only issue that you have there is that I think the reason why I would try and change the narrative as well, for even for the older travellers, is because they're over the household and they're the parents. They're the ones that has to encourage the kids to go further. You have to encourage the kids to go to school, go to college, get a job, get education. If the older ones don't see that, there's no encouragement there. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like saying that the younger ones are going to learn the older ones, but the older ones are set in their ways. The older ones will be like, sure, I'm older than you, I know better. I've experienced it. I've been there, done that. You're
yeah,
naive. Where the narrative needs to be changed across the board. I know the older ones are growing up, and it doesn't matter if you're deciding to get married younger, older, work, not work, and all that. As you were saying a while ago there, and look at you're a traveller. The whole purpose of it is being accepted. No matter what you decide in your personal life, the whole thing is you need to be accepted for who you
yeah,
are.
yeah,
And the thing it is today, which is a shameful thing to say, a lot of travellers are hiding that they're travellers just to get into normal society, we call it for a minute, to go and work
yeah,
in and to be accepted places, which look at that's do you know what I mean?
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
something that should be done. Do you know what I mean? You
yeah,
are what you are. You shouldn't be held accountable for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
So for us, it's also always tricky, and this is the reason why we usually try to focus on the youth, the youth girls as well, because it's very difficult to understand the new generation because it's a mix. It's a new profile that we are trying to discover because they are like born here, raised here, so they are Irish and something else, and they are most of the time lost between the two identities.
Mm,
So that's why we try to focus more on working with them to make sure that they understand that they can belong to both and they
yes,
don't have to, the two identities don't have to fight
yes,
within them. So
yeah,
that's why we also focus on the youth girls as well.
yeah. Culture have done a lot of work on that. You know, a migrant parenting an Irish child.
Mhm.
And that those dual or triple, quadruple identities,
Mhm.
and how to manage that. So we might talk to Culture about what they've done, and have a discussion around that. Ping, I know you're trying to get in.
Yes, yes, sorry. I was trying to say, and I think yes, when we talked about change, and but sometimes I think people are kind of like afraid of change because when we change, it means that we out of our comfortable zone, we out of something that we're used to it, and we're heading to something we don't know what what could be. And though we want to change, but we don't know what's that change, that steps, and leading to what kind of the situation. So sometimes I think that's why the old generations or the people who experience the things, they have some ideas or the habits or the customs has been trapped there. And okay, I don't like this. Like in Ireland, when people nowadays they will say, "Why do you have to give up your job when you get married? Why?" But at that time, if we're talking back then, why nobody questioned that? Well, sure, they questioned that, but just at that time, because that was a tradition, let
Yeah,
everybody do so. And if you don't do that, you probably portray it differently. I had
yeah,
the colleague actually, she challenged it and she went to and she was in the management in one of a local company back then because she got married, and they kind of like they didn't sack her, but they made her situation very difficult to push her away. um there was it's not back then people, females didn't question, didn't want to change, but just in that situation and in that context, it was difficult.
Mm.
So it takes time. I agree with Martin saying that all these kind of changes that need a process. We need to do that step by step. You have to embed it, come to the right time, and do enough preparation work. And though, and this kind of a real change can be made. It doesn't happen suddenly overnight.
Yeah. And it's the power then of spaces for people to come together. So, I mean, challenging something that's wrong just takes a few people. And then people start to think, God, you're right. And so, and you build a movement towards change. So it does change sometimes. It starts so it's like a little ripple. You drop a pebble and it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And that's what we need to hang on to. Sabusio, you were very polite there. You have to had your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to raise the importance of intergenerational dialogues and conversations when it comes to the change that we want to see. I feel like there is need not to just start at our level. By our level, I mean adults going up. I think it goes even beyond the youth. It should also go to the point where we involve children, because I feel like all change in the society starts with children. If children are taught what we are advocating for at a young age, they grow up to be responsible adults. They know what we stand for, and then it's easier because we started from the root going up. It doesn't help to start at the top and start having these conversations at youth level and going up. Yet we have children who think in a totally different way, or who do not know what we stand for as a community, as a society. And this is something that maybe is a bit difficult for people from my background, because we grow up in a society as Africans which says children do not know anything. They cannot be taught anything. The learning is mostly top down, not children also being involved in most of these changes. So I think this is one thing that I've noticed, that in as much as we're advocating for change, there are some levels that we are omitting, but those are also important and need to be included in the intergenerational dialogues and movement. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Yeah. Siún Grace, you're another one who's been very polite.
Hi everyone. In terms of what Dele Siso, I hope I pronounced your name right.
It's Siso. Call me FB if you can pronounce it.
Okay, no problem. So in terms of what she said, I kind of agree. She's kind of looking at it from the grassroots, trying to challenge the systemic racism, trying to challenge the systems, and trying to embed in the children in terms of the change we're talking about, from the children to the adults. And sometimes the change can be embedded in the parents and passing on to the children. I'm going to look at it from some of the families I work with. I work with some families that have children with additional needs, and the group is targeted at migrant family, but we also embrace other communities. But the reason is there's lots of isolation, discrimination, segregation, even the fear for people not to know that some of these families have children with additional needs. Mainly some is because of the cultural beliefs, the background, the perception of people, and the non-acceptance. Like when they know you have a child with additional needs, the vibe that you're given, you don't even want to say it in some people's ear, that you are in such a circumstance, which is not something to be ashamed of. All these children are strong, they are able, they're intelligent, they have their own abilities. Disability is just a word that is used, but the abilities on these kids, they are genius. It depends on when you relate with them. And to work with these people, what I observe is to work with them, like what we said, from an individual level to the collective level, which is sometimes very, very difficult and challenging to do, because some of them don't want people to know, but that's why sometimes we did a closed group of something, of a way to communicate with each other. But the goal is to be able to create more awareness for people to be aware of this and to implement the change in people. Though I know it's not going to be easy to try and change people's mindsets, beliefs, cultural perceptions that they've had from Africa or wherever they are coming from, but it's something that can be looked into and that can be changed. And
Yeah.
also for them to get support in the right way, not withdrawing themselves from accessing the right support that they
Yeah.
should get. I just thought to look at it from that angle.
Yeah, and and like community work is also about focusing on rights. You know, it's not about charity. It's not about, you know, giving people or granting something to anybody, whether it's children with additional needs or whoever. It's about looking at the rights that those children have and making sure that those rights are protected and vindicated. So there's a real focus in community work on what are people's rights. What are they entitled to? Not, you know, those who are willing to give something are willing to. It's about a real sense of, you know, that's a right, and those rights need to be protected. Which sort of brings us on a little bit to the next to our next conversation. And I'm going to just flash this up, and then I'm going to take it down again, because I think the discussion bit is much better. Anyway, so what I wanted to do was have a bit of a conversation about power. Who has power? Who has the power to make change? But in order to sort of bring us on to that conversation, what I'd really like you to do, just for a second, is think about what you think when you think of the word power. What does the word power invoke in you? Remember last week we spoke about words that have meanings, but words that also have feelings associated with them. So community has a feeling. So it's not just a word, it's a feeling. It's feeling safe, it's feeling accepted, it's feeling included. Power may be another one of those words that has a feeling associated with it. So what do you think of when you think of the word power? And then think of a time when you felt powerful. How did that make you feel? And then think of a time where you didn't feel powerful and others used power over you, and how did that make you feel? So just think for a second. What does the word power invoke in you? What comes to mind? I wish we were in a room where we could all just jump in.
I can start if you want.
Yes, please, Amina.
Yeah, so I think there are various dimensions to powers. Like it's really hard to summarize it into one sentence or one definition. But the way I see power is it can be understood by some people as the government, as some form of authority, as the law. It can be also seen as privilege. Like we should all be aware of our own privilege, like even just the privilege of having like a roof or having food or having, you know, access to certain services, to health, to anything that you think are normal, but in reality they are not normal because there are some people who are deprived of these services or who cannot really afford to have the things that we have in our everyday life. It's also about our identity. Like I mean, we compare in general, like, for example, a white European person to maybe a migrant or maybe somebody with mixed race or somebody with who have maybe not, let's say, not a majority religion or beliefs, then they tend to be in less power position than the others. Also depends on how the legal regulation is treating them, whether they are being, like, their rights are being acknowledged, their heritage have been protected, or they're in a position where they're being denied or assimilated, or maybe not fully have the right to, you know, practice their maybe mother language or maybe their religion or maybe their other concerns usually.
Yeah,
I think it's really hard to summarize it, but I'm just saying.
That's a fairly good summary now. You weren't doing too bad there. Well done. Others, what do you feel? I'm going to try and get this right. Sibusiso. No, tell me again how to pronounce it.
Sibusiso.
Sibusiso.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. To me, power presents itself as control versus submission. And as an individual, to me, it's something that I've always been fighting about, fighting for, and because almost all the time I find myself to be on the submission part of the equation of power, because there is control and I'm usually the one to submit. As a woman, as a Kalanga woman coming from a minority tribe in Zimbabwe, as a Black person, as currently as an asylum seeker. So to me, it's always been finding myself on the lower end of power.
And how does that make you feel?
It always, unfortunately, it doesn't make me feel weak, if that's what some people will think. I think it always empowers me to want to get justice for myself and for people around me. So I always joke with my friends that I think I was built in a way that I need to always fight for myself and in the process fight for others. I even
Here's the
throw
red
in a
coming
little
out.
joke
Yeah,
to
here's
say
the
that I'm
red.
even
Yeah.
short, so every time I have to fight for height, fight to be identified as a woman, fight to be identified as a Black person, and also just fight. But this has given me a leverage because I always draw from my experiences of the places where I've felt like I'm disadvantaged.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, really good. Siún Grace?
Yeah. In terms of power, I agree with what Sibusiso said. So I look at it from the hierarchy of the upper class, the higher class, the middle class, and the lower class. So if you look at it from the higher class, like the government, those in the making decisions, trying to enforce people in the community to make certain decisions. But the good thing is, for everyone in the community, we have the power and the opportunity to use our voices in different spaces to try and influence the change we want to see. And that's the power we have as individuals. And I can use the referendum as an example. We're able to vote no. I don't know other people's preference, but based on my own preference. And in terms of the middle class, we can look at it from the business aspect and even from organization aspect. Maybe the bosses, it depends on how it is used and the person using it. And sometimes those in the lower class might feel maybe because of lack of money, because of the situation or the circumstance they find themselves. I was an asylum seeker myself before I got my papers. And then you might want to feel like, oh, because you don't have your paper as a candidate. But in actual sense, you can actually do a lot of things. It depends on how you view things. You can empower yourself, you can study, you can be involved in your community to empower yourself, to contribute positively, and also use your voice to influence the change you want to see. You might be cheated sometimes, but from learning and educating yourself, you get to know, oh, this is not right. You can challenge the systemic racism. You can challenge the injustice of the system. And you can also look at the positives in the place and look for ways to embed things, embrace things in a positive way, be solution-driven and be positive, not only focusing on the problems, but actually look for ways to provide solutions. Using our voices as well in different ways. When I was in the asylum process, I didn't know as an asylum seeker I could vote. And which is something that now that I know is something I find so painful that there was nobody then to actually lecture. So I'm taking it upon myself to actually make sure that everybody in the asylum process that I know, they are using their voices as much as they can. Being in the asylum process doesn't make you weak, or being a woman in Ireland doesn't make us weak. We are strong people. We are mothers and we can do so many things.
I think you've hit on something there, which is knowledge and action, are very, very associated with power. Sometimes you actually don't know you have power. Martin, did you have your mic turned off there, or you just?
Yeah,
did you
I
want to
did.
jump
You
in?
just got there. I was just going to say that information is key. Knowledge is power. And I think with being a community worker is you have to take power for your community, especially if you're representing them, especially for the group. They're coming to you for help. So you have to kind of show power to them in a sense of you have to fight for them. So you have to take power into your own hands against other powers that's trying to hold you back. So it can be, depends on what way you want to look at it. You can look at power as you can empower yourself, or you can look at as power as there's organizations there or there's roadblocks there that's trying to hold you back. Either way, you have to try and overcome them by giving yourself power and the information and the key to do that. Knowing your rights, knowing what to say, know who to speak to, where to go. Do you know what I mean? What to do. So information is
You're
a big
dead
part
right.
of power.
Yeah, and what you tapped into there, Martin, is the expectations of a community worker. And one of the expectations of a community worker is to arm themselves with knowledge. You know, so you don't go in and talk to a group about racism unless you've done your homework and you know about racism and you know about the rights that are associated with that. So that what you're doing then is you're giving people the accurate information so that they can take action. You know, so if you're a community worker and you're going into a group and you're talking about employment rights, you know, whatever it is, you go and you read your stuff. You know, you need to have the knowledge to be able to give people the knowledge they need to take action and to make change. Anybody else, in terms of just power and in terms of how power makes us feel, are disempowered when you don't have power? How does that make you feel?
Yeah. So for me, I don't know, but power, the term power is always connected with negativity, like it's because it's always used negatively. It's a little scary for someone to have power. But the moment that I felt powerful is especially when I am invited to a consultation or a meeting, especially with the Department of Justice, and I'm the only Muslim woman in the room, or even the only Muslim in the room. So I feel like my say have a weight and I am listened to, and especially when they come back to you, it's what's your opinion on this or that. So I feel like I have power in this situation. The moment that I felt that power was used against me is when I came here in Ireland and I was granted stamps 3, despite of all my qualification, because I came with my husband who was granted the permit, the work permit, but I wasn't allowed to work. So it felt bad that you're like, it doesn't matter what you know, what qualification you have, you can't use them.
Yeah. And a situation can make you feel powerful, like you've done, and a situation can make you feel very powerless. And when people feel powerless, what does it invoke? Like when somebody takes your power away, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel, Neera? And I'll come to you then, Amina. How does it make you feel?
I
You feel
felt
frustrated?
angry and I wanted to do something to change it, to
Yeah.
fight it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Siún Grace, you've used that word challenge quite a lot. Amina, go on, jump in there.
Yeah, I think when somebody feels powerless, then it creates a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, and also it makes them, I mean, it probably will create a negative reaction. Like it's not like it justify violence, but it can be one way to react to some things. And then here where comes like of creating the importance of being fair and having a just full system in order for people not to feel this kind of really negative emotion that could trigger really I would say frustrating reaction. Like
Yeah. And that sense of powerlessness, it's very easy to exploit that sense of powerlessness. I mean, we only have to look at what happened in Dublin a couple of months ago to see that where communities feel powerless and where they don't feel heard. Now, I'm not talking about the far right. I'm not talking about the people who actually organized it. I'm talking about the people that were caught up in it. And I know Icon, you did a really good job of doing that analysis of the young people and others who were caught up in it because they feel powerless. They don't feel that the state listens to them. So when you feel powerless, it's very easy to exploit that, and take advantage of that. And that's, you know, that's where sometimes I'm far right extremists, you know, racists, that's where they get their power, is from people who feel that sense of powerlessness and not being heard. Anybody else somebody maybe who hasn't spoken for a while, want to jump in? Especially those who I can't see on camera. It's hard to judge the little movements. No?
I think with the power, I mean, it can happen from your home, it can happen from your community, it can happen in your job. Anything like that can make you feel inadequate. And even on a general Zoom meeting, it can be, how would you say, you can feel, I'm not going to say that because I'll come across as maybe stupid or not knowledgeable, or so there's a lot of different things with power. The other girl, I'm sorry, I'm no good with names, and I've only one screen on, so I'm. But as she said, when she came to Ireland, you know, and and she was put up as grade 3. I mean, I'm a married woman living in Ireland, but my husband would be recognised as having the power in the home. He would be recognised as having, you know, something as simple as down to tax. You know, if you're not working, and I'm talking in general about people married in Ireland, if you go to claim back tax, your husband will get 2/3 of the refund, and you'll get 1/3. Yeah, we both work, you know, managerial jobs, and you're looking down. So it's not only with racism or, you know, you're religious, or it's just how maybe our governments have been allowed to rule in a sense, and no one's voice really carried over the years. And as you said, our voices are starting to change. We're starting to turn around and say, actually, no, I don't agree with this. And that's where we're getting our power back, you know, as voters, as it's the only way we can go against a government. But our power within our community can be, you know, I can still live with my morals and my identity and my religious beliefs. And I don't have to succumb to, you know, oh God, I won't say who I am for fear. So there's a lot of, you know, in power. The word is very powerful in itself. So it does have the, you know, how good you can feel, but it also has that fear in it as well.
Yeah. So let's stick with that for a second, and let's just do a little exercise. Okay, so name one powerful institution in Ireland. Where is the power? Where is the power in society? Just name one.
The church.
The church. Okay. So let's look at the church. So from a class perspective, people mentioned class. From a class, well, let's start with gender. So do we see equality in the church?
No.
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 No, would I be right to say it's men?
It's men. It's men. It's women not being allowed to be priests. It's, you know, the contraception, the unmarried mothers, the minority, the, what will I say, the, you know, what's deemed as the lower class people, because they know they have the power over them. I mean, for me personally, I've a great religious belief, but I'm not dictated to. I have my belief. I go to mass, but my mother, when she was alive, had a great faith, but I grew on, you know, on her beliefs. She had a great faith, but she was also realistic. She was also, you know, what's right for you. And if you can keep your morals, and, you know, you don't have to succumb, but not everyone would have that strength, if you like. So I do think there's a bit of within the church that there's that the control, basically. And I'm not slagging off the church, because my religion is what I'm a Roman Catholic, it's what I believe in, but I don't believe in all the ideals.
Yeah. Okay, so let's stick with the church. And it's men. Class. Are they generally well educated from fairly privileged backgrounds?
Yes,
Okay.
with the religion part of it, like it's the priests, it's the nuns. A lot of, as Anne-Marie said, women want to become priests. So the church, it would, if they opened their horizons, could actually be good for the good of the people.
Yeah.
Because if women were actually priests, plus you're talking about the hierarchy outside Ireland, outside Europe. Priests should be allowed to marry. I think it'd be a whole different change for the good.
Yeah. But the church is probably going to be the slowest to change. That's
100%.
yeah. Okay, let's look at something else. So let's look at the government. So from a gender perspective.
Hold on 1 second. Can I just touch back on the church thing when you talk about class, right? Because I have experience, I've seen that firsthand in the church, the different classes and how they've been treated. You know, as you said, if you're well educated or you're well off, you know, you're treated much better than the others. Do you understand? And that as well take away power from the uneducated. Do you understand? Because actually, when you come together and you said, you know, you're with a denomination, you want that whole denomination to accept you for who you are, and you want to grow and become a family. But then if one leg of the family feel like they're above you, they dictate what you need to do, how you need to think, how you need to dress, where you need to go, how you speak, you know, stuff like that. So class in the church, you know, also is a breakdown of community. I don't know if that's just in my head, I'm thinking out loud, but for me personally, I feel like it's a breakdown in community, because if I am poor and you're rich and we go to the same church, it doesn't mean that you can speak to me or look at me differently, you know, because we're all one race. Do you understand what I mean? Right? Not because you may have an education, or not because you may come from a background of money, right? And I find that within the church, people tend to gravitate to others who are more educated or who have money, so they can get into that bracket for a sense of belonging. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah. Go on. See, you're muted. See.
Sorry, it's Busiso. I think I agree with what Cheryl is saying, maybe because we come from the same denomination. I've noticed that the more educated and the more moneyed you are, the better you are placed, even in church. So the church just becomes an extension of how we live our lives daily in the communities that we live in. Even when we purport that we say that the church is a place where we are all equal, we are all worshiping one God and all that, you'll notice that the lower your income, the lower the level you will get a church, the lower the position you'll get a church. So at the bottom, you'll get your deacons and your deaconesses, the people who will sweep the church, who will clean the church, are the ones who are not educated. Then the more educated ones are the ones who are going to be given a chance to talk about church politics, to have a voice in whatever else is supposed to be done. They actually have control over the ones who are poor.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah,
Anne-Marie was first, and then you, Grace.
Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm cutting in here. With Cheryl, she said she has first-class experience. I probably, even though I'm saying about the church, I mean, I come from the inner city. There is a great community in my church. It's all about the deprived. It is all about the deprived. So I probably came across like I was generalizing the church, if that makes sense. But when in my own community, I don't have the experience of feeling inadequate or anything like that. I could actually turn around and say, you know, that I would have friends in the church. Whether that be the community or the priests or the nuns. And I feel more equalization in my community. But I can understand the community that it's inner city Dublin, the community that's there alongside the church works very well. But I can see if we were in a different area or brought together in a different area. Even the priests and nuns in my community, extremely well educated people, that they probably actually feel inadequate because of the area. So it's
No, and
you know,
you're really touching on a not the kind of the ball of wool, the scrambled balls of wool that makes up these experiences. And you generalize because I asked you to generalize that. I mean, that was the question. And I'm going to ask you to generalize again, because I want you to look at the big picture. So not just about your own experiences, but do generalize. So like, let's take the government, for example. If you look at our government, would you say from a gender perspective, mainly men, mainly women, equality?
Mainly men.
Mainly
men.
Okay, switch on the mics there and just jump in, because we're
I
only
think
looking for words.
it's men in the higher positions, but a lot of women working, doing their real work.
Yeah. And look at teaching, for example. Your point there, Nira, would be well associated with teaching. So when we look at teachers, men, women, equal maybe?
No, mostly women.
Mostly women.
Mostly women?
Where I work, it's mostly women. We have
mostly women.
The principal is a male, and we have one male teacher.
Exactly. So when you look at the power is in the principals. Are principals mainly men or mainly women?
Mainly women.
Mainly men. Yeah. No, yeah, I think if you looked around the country, the principals are mainly men.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have
Can I say
assumed.
something here? So there is also, beside the fact that the power mostly come with the men, but also there is gendered roles. So they assume that women should be doing like teaching, like nursing, like care
care
roles, but they
roles.
don't expect them to be more in business or IT or to be more like managerial roles, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
let's look at government.
Yeah.
Go on,
Sorry
Anne-Marie.
for interrupting. I do think that can be, it's probably an age thing right throughout not an age thing, an identity thing right throughout the world, because we are the species or the sex that can have the child. And we are the ones that it's in our nature to mother and, to want the babies. And then I think when you have your babies, your outlook changes. A lot of people, a lot of girls I would know, gone to church level education and want to push themselves, but are quite happy as well to stand back, where, from the time a boy is born, nothing changes in his life. He doesn't get, the changes we have in body changes. He doesn't get the birth. He doesn't have, we are on two different levels.
Yeah.
We are. And even though we fight and push ourselves, whether you're a career woman or not a career woman, you're always pushing. But I would say, in one sense, I'm probably supporting men in the sense that what else are they meant to do, in the sense of, am I going off track here?
No,
because what else?
No,
what else are they
it's
meant
the
to do?
scrambled ball of wool again. Yeah.
Like, what else are they meant to do? Because they have, like we have as teenagers, what's your next step? Where are you going for education? Where are you going for work? And they have a goal. So they get to their goal, and the goal they have is to improve. For us, our goal can be stopped if we become pregnant. Maybe if we can't have a child, our ideals change in different ways. So in one way, I know it is all government. It's probably, in my mind, it's how men in government rule or power us. That's what my thing would be,
Yeah. But who created the society where, and I'll come to then, Martin, who created the society where it's not okay you know, that the women are always, if you're a woman in work, you're feeling inadequate because you're not spending enough time at home. If you're at home, you're feeling inadequate because you're not in work. If you're both, you're juggling and you're here and you're there. And why is it that women still do the majority of care work? Like, who created that society? Martin, and Martin, before you come in, can I ask you to, well, I don't know what you're going to say, but also to put on an ethnic lens and look at the powers in society and whether it reflects your ethnicity.
Well, I will say here in Ennis, anyways, in the lines of these community developments, the majority of them is women. I don't know why on it. Like where I work as well, I suppose in every 10 women, there's like 2 men up where I work.
You
Even
must be
in
getting
school.
used to it, Martin.
Well, it's not a bad thing. Even with our culture now amongst travellers, our own ethnicity, it's always the male is the dominant we're more old fashioned than the other societies. We still kind of nearly have that trend in a sense of the man goes out and works, the woman stays at home, minds the kids, cleans the house. He works so she doesn't have to. Now that is changing. Of course, look, that's changing for the better. Like with my wife as well, if she wants to go and work and whatever, look, that's totally up to her. That's her choice. She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. I don't pressure her to do it. If she wants to do it, no problem. I will do it anyways because I do feel that I have to provide for my family anyways. I think that's just nearly a normal thing that a man thinks anyways. Do you know what I mean? Like here now, I'm kind of outnumbered here now with all with all the girls here anyways. But sometimes women like you're saying there, women can naturally take the kids because it's a woman's intuition, or they feel like that they want babies and whatnot. Where men doesn't have that. Men kind of nearly think that I have to go and provide. So now that narrative is changing because you have strong, independent women, which look, is fantastic, and you have stay-at-home dads. They're like years ago in the households, it wasn't that the dad stayed at home and the wife went off, the mom, because she could make more money. It was just that the dad has to go off. Do you know what I mean? It's a shameful thing. Do you know what I mean?
And sometimes
Now
we
it's
accept
changing.
that. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes we accept the roles that we're given and we don't think about them, which is why spaces like this are really important to kind of step back and just look at the big picture and look to see it's not just women who have gendered roles, it's actually men also have gendered roles. Sian Grace, you wanted to jump in?
Yes, I was just going to say to what Martin was saying and the other ladies in terms of the church. What came to my mind was looking at equity, like balance in the system, whether male or female, there should be balance in every roles, whether in politics, whether in the church, whether in community workplace, whether in loudspeaker hand, in any space, so that the voices will be inclusive. And there should be a mix of the Irish people, the migrant community, involving the Somalian, the Muslim women, the men as well, because the voices of men need to be heard. I know we don't tend to have lots of men group, which they also have needs. They have their mental health needs to be looked at as well. And also for women, our issues need to be looked at as well. So there should be balance in the system. And if that balance is in place, then we can look at it from maybe the aspect of the church, whereby it's more men dominated. They can look for a way of being inclusive more, adapting more women in the roles, and see how it can work out. And there will not be autonomous power, like one person owning the power, controlling things and feeling overpowered, whereby the other people are feeling low, like power above, power beneath. Then the balance will come in place.
Yeah.
And as
That's
you were
really well
saying
said,
there,
because go on, because that's what community work would strive for, is that balance in the system. Go on, Martin.
and as you were saying there, Anne, with jobs, sometimes they're kind of gender specific in the lines of you have men there as kind of gender to labouring jobs just because of the physicality of it.
Yeah.
And then, but there's some jobs there that's misgendered in the sense of, like, for years it was known for the woman to cook and clean and whatnot. It wasn't really the man's place. He was off working. But then the chefs, some of the best chefs in the world are men. Do you know what I mean? So that shouldn't be a gender specific. No job should be gender specific.
But I think you've hit the nail there, Martin. If you look, and sometimes we can be sort of lulled into a sense of, oh yes, it's a woman in the doll. There's loads of women, doing the cooking. If you look to see where the real power is, so the chefs are the ones with the power. They're the men. mainly men, now not all men. And it's not just gender, but you know, I'd also encourage you to think about the powerful institutions in society and look to see what classes are represented there, and what ethnicities are represented there. Like, how many travellers do we have in the Dáil? None. How many traveller Taoiseachs did we ever have? How, you know, and you can say, well, we have women TDs, and we've plenty of them, but there's never been a woman Taoiseach, ever. Ever. So when you look at the real power in society, you will see that it's a very narrow class of people holds the power. It's generally over disproportionately made up of men. So while we can say, yeah, well, there's loads of women in the civil service, or we have women who are TDs, if you look at where the real power, or we've had women presidents, if you look at where the real power is, and you look at it from, you put on your ethnic glasses, you put on your gender glasses, you put on your class glasses, and you look at all of these institutions from that analysis, you will see that it's a very narrow group of people that are represented in the Dáil. And whilst, you know, we have Dublin voices, you know, we've got inner city Dublin voices in the Dáil. Have we ever had a Taoiseach from inner city Dublin? Have we ever had Taoiseach, you know, who is of any, who well, I suppose we do have a gay Taoiseach, so you know, that at least is some progress. Yeah, that at least is some progress. But I'm just very conscious of time now, because we're due to finish up at 2:15. So what I want to do is just leave you with one other thought, and we'll take up from where we left off last week, if that's okay. So I just want to leave you with one thought. Okay. Where is it? It was actually two thoughts. So you've looked at the analysis. You know, you've kind of started doing the analysis now. But what do you do next? Because sometimes looking at where power is in society can make you feel really powerless. So what do you do? And it's a suggestion that sometimes, and I don't think that's the case with this group, because I think you're very conscious of the fact that you do have power. So it's about encouraging people to look at their own power and to look at how that power can be used. And I'm going to leave you with this. And take up from it next week. I want you just to have a look at that graphic, and I'll send it around to you. So sometimes power comes from privilege, and privilege comes from your gender, your class, your education, all your wealth, your resources, and that's why there's this inequality. But I don't know if you know Mick. Do you know Mick Lynch, the union leader in England? He's from Irish descent. But he has really shown how you can build a movement. And when you have enough people behind you, you can start negotiating. And that's what community work does. It tries to build those movements. So it brings together, you know, people who really want to change for travellers, who really want to see migrants included in society, who really want to see a society where Muslim women are not just there's only one Muslim woman in the room. We don't want that. We want to build a society. So that's why community work is based on collective action, because it's about building those movements. And those movements come from loads of things. The research that ICON is doing, for example, where you have the women who are in the situation themselves going out and doing the research and gathering the evidence. The same in Clare, gathering evidence. And I know you're going to be doing it as well in Amal. Building that evidence, building that movement is how you begin to negotiate, how you begin to negotiate with power. So you take your own power, you build power, and then you negotiate with others who have power. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that thought. I'll do the same as I did last week. I'll circulate the slides and the recording, and you can have a look. And I'll just, from the notes I've taken of what you've said, I'm just going to put those into slides as well, so you can kind of take a note of what you've said, because it's really interesting stuff. So I'm just going to do a quick round around the screen again and just see how people are feeling after today. Neera, you're first on my screen.
Okay, I feel empowered because of the talks that we are talking and the group, and I feel a lot of that we can do something and we will do something. Yeah.
Yep, great. Sinead, you're next on my screen, and then Amina. So you can just have the mics ready.
Yeah, it was very informative again. I'm looking forward to next week.
Great. Thank you. So Amina and then Shun Grace.
I think there is a lot to learn from other people's statements. Probably I didn't know much about how the church works with the class issues, so I think it's good to hear about people's testimonies about that. And I just have one question for everyone here. I don't know if it's possible or no, but is it possible to share our emails among each other so we can keep in touch? Or no, I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll come to that question at the end. So we'll just see if anybody does mind, and I can I can just circulate the people who don't mind. We'll come to that question at the end. Thank you. Shun Grace and then Joyce.
I feel good, and I feel I learned a lot from other people as well, and I feel empowered more. And it's nice meeting everybody again in the space. And I kind of second Amina's suggestion, even maybe a WhatsApp group, if it's something we can look into. I don't know if it's okay.
Yeah, we can ask that question at the end. Joyce and then Anne Marie.
Yeah, I feel it's very informative, and there's a lot of different opinions going on in this group. I think it's very good. It is. It's making it very interesting. Really looking forward to next week.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Anne Marie and then CBCISO.
I think out of both meetings I've taken that we have so many groups, but I feel we all have the same ideals. We all have the same goals within our communities, and it'd be great if we eventually can come to, that we can all blend together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. CBCISO, tell me I'm improving at pronouncing your name. And then Ping.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm happy to have been a part of this session. I missed the first one, so I was scared that maybe I missed out a lot, but I'm glad that I was able to catch up, and I feel empowered really to notice that everyone here seems to be working towards the same goal, and it's a platform where I am meeting with people who are like-minded and who are going to help me shape my my journey into advocacy, into building better communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Ping and then Shireen.
Yeah, okay. I really enjoyed the session today, and it was great to hear different opinions and people's ideas. Yeah, it is quite informative and really enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to the next session.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Cheryl and then Martin.
Sorry. I learned a lot today, actually. It was very informative as last week. And I was listening when you were saying that, it's better when, you must build credibility with the community. You understand? Because normally when people go in, they just think that, you just, because of who you are, you can just talk and everybody around will just listen. But then if you go in and, you go down to their level, do you understand? Then you can understand where they're coming from, what they're doing, where they want to go and how you can help them. So that's a good thing. And another thing that excited me was the thought that we were talking about with the power, because then we realize, the people with power, how they actually contribute to society and how they make others feel who don't have that same power, and the fear that they circulate, right? So it was a good discussion, and I'm really looking forward to next week.
Great, thank you. Martin?
Yeah, look, it was nice to meet all of you. Well, nice to speak with all of you. Very informative, and it's nice to get everyone else's aspect of things and from different parts of the county. And it's nice to see that we're all on one page and we all want one thing. We all want to move forward, and we all have the same goals. So it's great to see that it's not just ourselves down here in Clare that has the same goals, or that we just have these goals, that everyone, we're all in the same page and we all want the best outcome for everyone is inclusion.
Yeah, well done. Thanks, Martin. And do we have Amini? Hey there.
Amani, hi.
Amani.
Yes, really, I lost part of from the discussion, but I was able to catch up the idea. I am really interested in such topic, and I found it today is very informative. Beside that, it gave me the idea that how to play a role, how to be involved. And at the end of the day, we have that different opinion, but we have the same goals. And as a human, or usually, we have the same ideas, but we are bringing it in different ways. It's very inclusion and very informative. And thank you for the discussions. Thank you. I'm learning from each one of you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with these types of sessions. And when you find yourself in a collective space, you actually learn more from everybody else, you know, and somebody says something, you think, oh God, I didn't think about that, or you add to the conversation. So I'm sorry, like it's really stilted on Zoom. So I wish we were in a room together and talking over each other, because I think that's part of it. Okay, does anybody have any objection to sharing emails with each other?
No objections at all, no?
Okay, so when I send out the slides, I won't BCC it, I'll just CC it, and you'll all have each other's emails then. And telephone numbers, I maybe we'll come back to the telephone numbers next week, because I don't actually have all of your telephone numbers. But I was saying to you last week, I want to send you out the copy of the standards and a poster. I'm only collecting copies of the standards today or tomorrow, so that's why I haven't sent them out yet. But I'll send you out a reminder to send me your postal address if you want a copy of the standards, which is what all of this is based on, the All Ireland Standards for Community Work. So I just don't have them at the moment. As soon as I do, I'll send them out. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. You know, just great conversations and real passion, and yeah, the red and orange is flying strong. So thank you so much, and I will see you next week at 11 o'clock. Same time,
Thank
same
you.
space.
See you.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.